All aboard! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, football fans, Malaysians, and beats like you. Now riding my train of thought. It's time to talk about the power rankings. I know they're a little later. I had some work to do with the Hawaiian Bowl game. What a choke job by Cal, but we're not talking about that right now. Instead, we're going to talk about the NBA in a sense of their Christmas schedule. Today is usually their signature day on the calendar. You get to see a lot of the big stars of the game go at it and showcase their skills. As a Spurs fan, I've enjoyed this season. I was actually at the Wizards game on Sunday in DC. It was quite a night. As I mentioned in the TikTok video, check it out there. The pizza was good. Pizza was actually really, really good, to be honest. I like their kind of easy pay type of style they got in some of their stands, but we're not talking about that right now either. Instead, we're going to talk about the 5 games, and I'm going to mention them in all 4 of these tiers, which means one of the tiers gets 2 games. Let's talk about the Fulton, Kentucky Zombie tier, and the Warriors Mavericks game is going to be in this tier. Dallas has not started out well. They've been okay since their early struggles, and part of that may be because Cooper Flagg has played well and Anthony Davis has been remotely healthy. Good. I still don't like their point guard situation, but at the very least, they're in decent shape, I guess, to not look like complete trash. I guess that's a start of some kind. In any event, good job on their part as for recovering. As for Golden State, Steph Curry's looking good. Not much around him has looked consistent, and they're just only mediocre, which in the Western Conference, you cannot be mediocre. That does not work. Anyway, we're going to go to the Fulton, Kentucky Zombie tier and talk about teams that are terrible, not mediocre. New York Giants, NFC tank rep. That's where the Giants are right now. They have understood the assignment for the majority of the year, where they have to lose, and lose a lot. And in some cases, not look awful while doing it, but lose. And that's really the key here. And quite honestly, Jackson Dart's throwing the receivers who can't seem to catch. Their defensive line is good, but their defense, when the defensive line can't get home, is inefficient when it comes to stopping people. They will be tested by a team that is not really good at scoring, except for Brock Bowers and Ashley GT, and Bowers is currently hurt for Las Vegas. AFC tank rep. Bowers, when he scores, the Raiders don't actually win. So maybe the Raiders will actually win, knowing that Bowers is hurt. That's a thing that's kind of wild, but it's true. Ashley GT, however, doesn't seem to have a problem scoring and scoring from long distances. He had a tremendous game against Houston, which is hard to do considering the Texas defense is like that. Geno Smith threw another inno, which seems to be par for the course for him. Will he throw more innos at MetLife on Sunday? I will talk about this game in a little bit. Arizona, defense and QB. Please fix these things. They are the reasons why your team isn't going anywhere, despite your skill position guys being really good. Michael Wilson with a tremendous catch on Sunday, by the way. Marvin Harrison, I think, can be better. I expect him to be. I'm disappointed he isn't. Trey McBride's excellent and probably looking for a first-team All-Pro spot because of the injuries, of course, to Sam Laporta and especially Tucker Kraft. But still, Trey McBride, he might have been an All-Pro selection anyway. I like what I'm seeing from him, obviously. Jacoby Brissett is stable. That's fine, but that's all he is stable. And that will pass for a year, but Arizona's going to have to find a future QB. We'll see what they do with Kyler Murray in the offseason. New York Jets, Inno Watch. And this isn't a matter of how many innos that Brady Cook will throw, because he tends to throw a few of innos every week. It's a matter of whether they can actually get innos. And the Jets have not done that yet. And they are going to face 2 really good quarterbacks to end the season. Drake May and Josh Allen don't seem to be keen on throwing too many innos unless you get mistake-prone Josh Allen. That's rather unfortunate on their part. The point of all of this is pretty simple here. Can the Jets actually get an interception before this season ends? It would be kind of hilarious for a team that's head coach was a quarterback, and a good quarterback for that matter, for them not to get an NO in his first year of service as head coach of the Jets. That'd be kind of wild. Cleveland. Garrett has 22. And yes, this half stack that he so-called earned was kind of a cheap one. And I don't really buy it, but at the very least, it wasn't a record-setting one. So we don't have to go back to the Mike Strahan, Brett Favre one, where Strahan set the record for the most sacks in a season initially. At least we don't have to go back and do that, and he could get a proper sack on Aaron Rodgers and or Joe Burrow in weeks 17 and 18. It would probably be more fitting if he got it on Burrow, because that's been a guy he has terrorized over his career. Still, let's see Garrett get this record and maybe even get to 25 over the next 2 weeks. Let's see him get there. Shedeur Sanders throwing too many innos is a problem. And without Judkins, I don't know where this offense comes from. And maybe Famine. Famine could get it, but I don't know where the offense really comes from otherwise. Washington, the right thing. The right thing for them to do was to shut down Jaden Daniels. The right thing for them to do when they face the Eagles to try to get their receipt for the disrespectful two-point conversion. It was hilarious, though. The right thing for them to do probably would be to lose out, get as high of a pick as humanly possible to A, get younger on defense, and B, get their offensive line right, because they need to do both. And if they can do both, I would feel so much better for the situation going forward. With a healthy Jaden Daniels, of course. Tennessee. Simmons scores again. For the second straight week, Justin Simmons gets the ball in the end zone. Once on offense, once on defense. I like what I'm seeing from Cam. Ward. I do. I think he's played better lately. And I can't really put this year on him because his roster's so weak. But I like what I'm seeing from Cam Ward. And I think there is some promise here. Just get this roster right. Or close to right. And maybe Tennessee's got a fair shot at doing something in a year or two. In Miami, the third quarter. It's really been that way against all four AFC North teams this year. All four third quarters have been pretty much disastrous for the Dolphins. Against Cleveland, it started with a pick six. It never got better. Against Baltimore, despite dominating the first half in yards, they actually doubled the Ravens up in yards. Baltimore were right down the field with relative ease and scored on them. It never got better. The third quarter against Pittsburgh was an abject disaster all the way through. There was no real redeemable part to start the quarter. It was just pretty much terrible all the way through, where the Dolphins went backwards on offense and then went backwards on defense as the Steelers mauled them. And then this past week against Cincinnati, it was, okay, all the turnovers by the Dolphins offense and all of the touchdowns by Chase Brown, who went a natural hat trick. Kind of wild. This was a disastrous series of events against four very physical teams, and Miami could not stand up to any of them. That's got to change, because it has not been a thing in the Mike McDaniel era against the physical teams. They have not done well against most of them. Let's get to the games of interest in this tier. And we're going to start with Saints-Titans. Two teams that have actually looked respectably good over the last few weeks. I got to give them credit. They've looked respectable. Both quarterbacks have looked pretty solid. Tyler Shook, obviously in New Orleans. Cam Ward, obviously in Tennessee. Both have looked solid. I got to give them credit for this. I will also give both of their teams credit despite being undermanned on the rosters. They both look solid. And I will say this for both these teams. With a couple good drafts, I think they can legitimately be good again. We'll see if that's the case going forward. We'll see if they are able to improve in 2026. As for now, this will probably be one of those 28-24 type of games, and whoever gets the ball last might potentially win it. We'll see how it goes, though. And of course, it's Raiders-Giants. It's go time for the Tank Bowl, for the king of the zombie tier. It is go time for this situation. Let's see if either of these teams understand the assignment. The loser of this game more than likely has a real shot at the first pick in the draft. If it's the Giants, the path is clear. They're the only team with less than 3 wins this year. And upon getting this job done, they pretty much nail a path to the draft, the first pick of it, and they can really make things happen here. And if it is the Raiders who lose, well, they have a clear path on Fernando Mendoza, which I think, for their sake, is a very good thing. I think they would be very happy with that. And now we get to the Monkey's Paw Fork in the Road tier. And inside this tier, we're going to talk about 2 games here. We're going to talk about the Cavs and the Knicks, where I think both these teams have a good shot at making a run in the Eastern Conference. I'd like to think they could do it. I would like to think that Jalen Brunson will be able to have a real shot at winning the MVP. I'd like to think that it's a decent shot for Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen and company to make a run in the Eastern Conference. Do I trust Cleveland in the playoffs? Absolutely not. They have earned the right not to be trusted. I do think, however, this is going to be a good playoff preview, potentially. We've seen these teams play in the playoffs recently, and the Knicks disposed of them. They could play again. And this time, there's actual respectable depth for the Knicks. I like it. Good work. Rockets, Lakers, and we get KD, we get LeBron, we get Luka, we get Şengün. This should be a fun matchup of young and old. I do worry about the Lakers in the sense of, can you keep up with Houston if Houston's hitting their shots? Like if, say, Reed Shepherd goes off and hits a bunch of threes, can they actually keep up? By that, I mean the Lakers. Can Austin Reeves cancel out Reed Shepherd? And we'll say this for both these teams. They both have looked pretty good. I'd put them probably on the second tier Western Conference teams. There are 4 teams, I would argue, that will play in the Western Conference today that are all better than the Rockets and the Lakers. But these are 2 teams that if things go right or they get the right matchup, they could do something in the playoffs. Anyway, on to Mobile, Alabama for the Monkey's Paw or Fork in the Roads here. Kansas City, moving to Kansas. Yeah, that's actually happening. In 2030, the Chiefs probably should have a $3 billion stadium in place. Not to mention a complex around said stadium, because that's the new trend now. It's wherever you get in the stadium, you're going to get a giant complex around it with all the fixings, the hotels and the greenery and the apartments and all that good stuff that modernizes areas and is a whole lot to build over a 3-year span. Washington's going to get one of these things as well. Thank goodness, where RFK used to be. Anyway, it's good to see Kansas City is going to do that, but they're going to do that in Kansas, not Kansas City, Missouri, which is kind of wild. But it's true. And I would like to think Arrowhead will still be functional, because it still looks like a functional place. But yeah, it's kind of weird that they're not doing this in Missouri. There's nothing to talk about when it came to this game with the Titans. Kansas City's basically dead, and they're basically putting all their main guys on IR so they can come back swinging for next year. Cincinnati, don't waste Burrow. Don't waste Burrow. Don't waste this offense. That is the modus operandi for Cincinnati. Can they do anything when it comes to their defense? Can they do anything when it comes to their coaching? Zach Taylor should not be the coach of this team next year. Let's face it, it just doesn't work. He's not that great of a coach. And I would like to think that they could do something to replace Trey Hendrickson, because I don't think Hendrickson's coming back next year. At least I would like to think he's not going to come back. I'd be shocked if he does. New Orleans, Shook looks solid. Yeah, he's looked pretty productive over the last few weeks. I got to give him credit. I will also give credit to the defense, who have also looked pretty solid. It's good work on their parts. I would like to think that New Orleans has got a plan in place, whether Tyler Shook is the quarterback next year or not. And if he is, build around him. See what you can get out of having a wide receiver 2. Well, yeah, wide receiver 2, I guess, with Chris Olave. And see what you can do with the running back situation, because Alvin Kamara just hasn't been that much of a factor this year. Can they get younger on defense, especially with edge rusher and linebacker with Demario Davis? Though both him and Cam Jordan are still good players, they could also use apprentices, if you will. That'd be quite nice. Indianapolis, bad since Berlin. It's been a pretty ugly stretch of games for Indianapolis. And since their 8-2 start, and that 8th win was in Berlin when Jonathan Taylor went ham, and we all wanted to give him the MVP award, the Colts have not won since. It's been all kinds of bad, from the disastrous calls against Houston to Daniel Jones' knees both being torn apart, to what just happened with Phillip Rivers in both of these weeks. One where they actually put up a fight in Seattle, and one where Brock Purdy absolutely carved up their defense. It's not looking good. It's legitimately not looking great, as this season's become an abject disaster. It begs this question. Chris Ballard, does he last? Does he survive? Despite how good of a roster he has built, does he survive all of this chaos and this potential destruction and potential 8-9 end to what was an 8-2 start? Atlanta, make pick worse. I get it, it's the same as last week, but that's the modus operandi here. They have to make this pick worse for the Rams. They're succeeding. Their pick is no longer in the top 10. Good. Bijan Robinson and Drake London and Kyle Pitts are playing well. London's healthy. Good. In theory, as long as Kirk Cousins doesn't self-destruct, they can make this pick even worse. That is the plan, Atlanta. Keep doing it. You're wasting wins, but at least it's not your draft pick you're wasting. Keep going. Tampa Bay, a disastrous ending. That's kind of similar to what the Colts are doing, just not as glamorous of a record to start with. And in the case of Tampa, I'd like to think that there is a plan in place after Todd Bowles upon the missing playoffs, and he would get canned. Baker Mayfield had looked like an MVP candidate to start this year, and he's looked kind of average since. Maybe he's injured to some degree, maybe. But it just isn't working. There's just something missing here. Bucky Irving obviously missing time. Mike Evans missing 2 months. Both of these things not great. But I'd like to think that Tampa Bay can get this W against Miami and then set up a one-game showdown with the Panthers. They are going to beat the Dolphins, right? We'll see. Dallas, a proper ending. Yep, your defense has been mostly bad this entire season, so it only makes sense for you to be eliminated because your defense was bad. Yes, they lost the Charger game and they were eliminated before the Charger game started, but they were bad against Minnesota too, and I think we should have expected that, okay, that's the way this should go, that's the way this should end. Your defense being terrible, and your defense just not getting anything done despite the acquisitions. Obviously, fixing the front seven to some degree would be good. A linebacker that can cover and pass rusher that can get home. And your quarterbacks are basically Swiss cheese. That's also not great. I like them in terms of getting turnovers, Bland and Diggs, but yikes, you guys are not the best at coverage. That's a problem. Matt Eberflus also being your defensive coordinator, not great. Anyway, the Cowboy season went disastrously, but we all could have probably seen that coming. In Minnesota, McCarthyism is fragile. That's where the Vikings kind of are at this point. I think the Vikings are obviously capable on offense. They're respectable on defense. Yet, McCarthy being hurt kind of puts a damper on anything. If they're not facing a bad team, they're probably in trouble if he doesn't play. If McCarthy doesn't play against the Lions today, they're pretty doomed, despite how mediocre Detroit can be. I would like to think that Minnesota will get their act together in the offseason, and or maybe have a veteran QB that can keep things afloat if McCarthy has to miss time. We shall see if that is the case. Let's get to the games in this tier. Broncos, Chiefs, and I will be doing this game for SiriusXM. I'll be holding on the boards for that. I'll be making sure that the Westwood One feed is as good as it should be. So I'll look out for that. And who would have thought we'd be here at the start of the year, where it is the Chiefs who are 2-touchdown underdogs, not the Broncos? Who would have thought we'd be here? Who would have thought we'd be here with a Denver team that's competing for the 1 seed, not Kansas City? And Kansas City, who's basically dead and wants no parts of this game. Who would have thought we'd be here where it's on the board that Travis Kelce is playing his next to last game in the NFL? At this rate, he probably should be. He looks really depressed and sad at this point. I'd rather he just retire and get married to Taylor Swift and keep it pushing. He's going to need to keep the Chargers off their backs, and in theory, they will be able to do so, as long as they don't fumble this opportunity against the Chiefs to embarrass them for all the years of suffering that they have gone through. Let's also get to Jaguars Colts and Jacksonville, who made a loud, powerful statement. I will get to that later. And they can pretty much finish off the Colts. All they have to do, beat Indy, sweep Indy, keep things pushing towards getting the AFC South and allowing themselves to host basically either Denver or the Chargers. I would like to think more than likely. Anyway, Jacksonville keeping this thing rolling is the modus operandi for them, considering how well they played lately. And sure, they should be able to, right? Or maybe the Colts figure something out and kind of save their season in the game where they absolutely have to have it. Or if they don't have it, they're done. It's pretty much as simple as that. Let's go to the Wilmington, Delaware playoff tier. But first, we talk about the Timberwolves and the Nuggets. two teams that have obviously had some good playoff history against each other. And it really kind of sort of humiliating playoff history when it comes to the Nuggets. These are two real good teams in the Western Conference this year. Anthony Edwards, Nikola Jokic, both have played well this year thus far. This should be a real good battle in Denver because I think both these teams are going to be trying to get as close to the 1 or 2 seed as humanly possible. Denver's basically right in play for the 1 seed as it stands, or 2 seed I should say, as it stands right now. We'll see if they can get anywhere closer to that, make some hay against the Spurs in terms of catching them. We'll get there later, San Antonio. But now let's get to this tier in Delaware. Baltimore, do something different. This isn't really about this season because I think it is what it is at this point, to be honest. They aren't making the playoffs. They aren't going anywhere because they just can't shake their old bad habits. They can't seem to get out of their own way. It's always something with this Ravens team. And to be honest, they just have to kind of blow things up or change something. Whether it's Lamar, whether it's John Harbaugh, change something. It's just not working. To me personally, I would move on from Harbaugh and try to work it out with Lamar. To be honest, I'd rather go that route. But if the play is to trade Lamar and move on from him, move forward, then okay, get what you can for him and keep things moving. It's going to be a massive dead cap hit if you do it, but go do it if that's the route you want to go. Anyway, Baltimore's got to do something different, and I think that's the only way to move forward here because currently constituted, they just aren't able to do it. They just can't get it done. Detroit, another devastating loss. And this one is going to hurt for so many reasons. This one's going to hurt because they had the opportunity to close this out. They, for some reason, could not stop the Steeler run game. They couldn't run the ball themselves. The pass interferences at the end were just not happening. And that part's kind of frustrating because of how controversial those pass interferences actually were. The first one, kind of sus of a call. The second one was, even though Jalen Ramsey absolutely sold it, it was just another awful loss for a Lions team that's had a few of them this season. Their season's probably done when it comes to making the playoffs. They're going to need a lot of help considering they don't have tiebreakers with the Packers. But it's not looking good when it comes to the Detroit Lions making another playoff run. And it's probably for the best at this point considering all the defensive injuries they have. Carolina, playoffs are near. All they need to do is win out. It's pretty much that simple. Now, no one expects them to win against their next opponent. I'll get to that later. But what happens if they do? If they do, then they basically said, okay, all the pressure's on Tampa Bay. And if for some reason they get the perfect scenario, Carolina gets a division championship for Christmas. Otherwise, they may get it for New Year's. We'll see if that works out for them. I like the win that they had against Tampa Bay. I don't know if I can really trust them. And I don't think anyone trusts them this week. But if for some reason they are able to prove us wrong, well, they will really change the game for everybody in the NFC West and everybody in the NFC. Pittsburgh, DK finally snapped. Of course he picked this time of the year, this time right now, to crash out and punch somebody and get himself suspended because he dumb. And that's kind of what DK Metcalf will tend to do. He'll tend to be stupid. Okay, cool. He got suspended for the regular season, not the playoffs. Pittsburgh's probably going to go there because Baltimore can't figure themselves out. All right, fair enough. As long as the Steelers can get TJ Watt back for said playoff game, good. You're ready to roll. Win this week against Cleveland, you basically have a bye. Baltimore get a free win, we move. That's kind of how Pittsburgh should take this. Green Bay, a crushing defeat. The Packers have had a few of these this year, right? They've had a few really bad losses in the sense of personnel, but also games. And losing this one to the Bears is kind of soul-crushing in the sense of they had it won. This was over. All they had to do was recover the onside kick. And then they gave their fans PTSD from the Seattle NFC Championship. Yeah, not great. In theory, they are going to be able to make the playoffs, but instead of possibly being the 2 seed, they're probably going to be the 7. And that's not great considering they may have to go round 3 with the Bears. A team that they really shouldn't beat, to be honest, but if you're telling me Jordan Love may or may not have concussion issues for said game, I don't know if I can trust it. Philadelphia, concerned about Elliott. Yeah, that was ugly. That was a game in D.C. where if Washington were any kind of good, they potentially lose that game. And they did not play a complete game once again because the Eagles are incapable of doing so. They've only done it really twice this year. Actually, arguably, I would say once this year. The Eagles are okay. They'll be back. They'll probably be your 3 seed. I don't trust them if they have to play any of the 3 teams in the NFC West, except for maybe the Niners. And even then, San Francisco's learned to play with all the injuries they have. I don't think I can trust the Eagles. They feel like a one-and-done team in the playoffs. They really do. Unless everything flips, and flips fast. LA Chargers, playoff-style showdown. That's what you're going to be dealing with in the next opponent. I will absolutely be talking about it, but certainly it will be a main event style game. I'll be talking about it then. That's what the Chargers are dealing with, and that's what the Chargers have earned, to be honest. They've been really good at keeping Justin Herbert somewhat healthy, and kind of sort of vertical they have not done. They have simply not been able to do that part, except for last week, where they actually didn't allow him to get sacked. That may be more so a Dallas thing, but he didn't get sacked. Kind of disappointing on their part. Anyway, as long as Herbert's healthy, the Chargers got a shot. And that, to be honest, is all they need. And Buffalo, good litmus test. That's what you're going to be running to this Sunday. A showdown against a good team that, sure, has their flaws, but so does Buffalo. Buffalo's run defense, I am still concerned about. But ultimately, as long as Josh Allen and James Cook are playing, I would say B+ to A- games, they are probably going to win a lot of them. If both are playing B- games, or Allen is playing a C game, then Buffalo may be in trouble against the good teams. There have been times where Allen's played F games. I guess the Dolphins game, for example, where they got blown out in, I would consider that a D- to F game for Josh Allen. I almost called him Jeff. But as long as Josh Allen's not doing that, I think they're going to be kind of sort of okay. It's a big showdown this week for Buffalo against the Eagles. Monster game in Buffalo. And kind of got to have a game for the Bills to stay alive in the AFC East. Although it's unlikely considering the opponents left standing for the Patriots. But for the Bills, it's a game that's going to be very interesting to me. And one of which for the Eagles, where it's like, okay, can you play a complete game against a team you absolutely have to play a complete game against? A good Bills offensive line versus a good Eagles defensive line. And it's a matchup I am much looking forward to seeing. Can the Bills cause enough turnovers against Jalen Hurts? That is something that's also going to be critical to watch. The Eagles probably on the 3rd seed, and if they lose this game here against Buffalo, that's pretty much all that there is, considering tiebreakers with the Bears. But if Buffalo were to win this game, then Buffalo obviously still keeps up with New England. If they lose, then, okay, maybe Buffalo's your 6th seed, and they probably deal with Jacksonville or Houston again. But a vital game, and really more so of legitimacy, I think, for both these teams. Looking forward to seeing it. Seahawks, Panthers, Carolina. You've already proven you can beat one titan in the NFC West in the Rams. Can you do it again against Seattle at home? In a game where Carolina has to have it to keep Tampa Bay off their backs. In a game where Seattle's got to have it to keep up with the Niners, knowing full well if San Francisco wins out, the Niners are the 1 seed. Guess who the Niners play in Week 18? I'll obviously talk about the Niners game in Week 17 as well. It's a lot happening here when it comes to Seattle. And got to have it games for both these squads. Can Seattle keep up their momentum after the emotional roller coaster that game was last week against the Rams? Can Carolina do the same against a similar emotional roller coaster, but this one against the Bucs? I am most looking forward to seeing how this goes in Charlotte, and can Carolina keep stacking games? They have not been able to really do that this year. Can they stack a game and have another signature win? Let's get to the Moynihan New York City title tier, and let's talk about Spurs Thunder. They just played on Tuesday night. San Antonio won easily. They just played recently. San Antonio won that game too. They have been the Thunder kryptonite for the 25-26 season. The Thunder have 4 losses. I just told you 2 of them. San Antonio matches up well with OKC. They have done so in these 2 games without Victor Wembanyama actually having to truly cook. And I think that's the scary part about all of this. San Antonio can match up with them. They have guards that can defend. They have a lot of youth and athleticism that can go bar for bar with the Thunder. And this is without Wembanyama having to go God mode. If he does, then that's a huge problem that I don't think OKC can truly counter. SGA played well in both these games, and still San Antonio won. And the second one easily, because their third quarter against the Thunder was domination. So that's the question I have here for this game in OKC. The Spurs have shown they can win on neutral court. They've shown they can easily win in San Antonio. Can they win in Oklahoma City? This is a game that's going to be vital, and to be honest, if this is the Western Conference Final, it wouldn't shock me at all. And I feel like these are the 2 best teams in the Western Conference. Yes, I know Denver's there, but I think if San Antonio and Denver faced off in round 2, I think the Spurs would win that series. Way too much depth for San Antonio against the Nuggets. Anyway, let's go to Moynihan for the titles here. New England, just not sold. That was sluggish. And to be honest, that felt more like a Raven loss than a Patriots win. And sure, it's a heads you lose, tails you lose situation. Beat Baltimore, and it's like, oh, you've only beaten one playoff caliber team. Lose to Baltimore, and it's like, oh, you showed you really aren't that great against a team that's still relatively good. I get that part. But the part about this game to me was, okay, New England looked sluggish until the very end. That's not great. And even then, it took Baltimore self-destructing to do it. From John Harbaugh not playing Derrick Henry when he absolutely should have. From the Zay Flowers fumble. From all this happening after the injury to Lamar Jackson. Where, to be honest, a healthy Lamar Jackson, there's no way the Ravens lose. That's my concern about this team. That's my concern about this Patriots squad. They face a competent team that doesn't self-destruct. I expect them to be one and done. I don't care what their seed is. And this is with Travion Henderson or not. He didn't even play in the second half of this game with a concussion. Houston, don't do that. It's very serious. Please don't do that. Do not crumble like this. I love watching this defense play. They hit people. They take the ball from you. They are relentless on the defensive side of the ball. Offense, please do not waste it. I do not need this offense to be the reason why this team is one and done. Please don't do that offense. CJ Stroud, get your act together. Nico Collins, I trust you. Woody Marks, need you help me. That would be quite nice if he was. And if you can run the ball without Woody Marks, that would be all the same. Dalton Schultz, I also trust you. I think you're also a pretty solid player. Houston, please do not waste this defense because the defense is way too fun to see it go out early. Jacksonville, a loud statement. That was as good and as productive of a game as it possibly gets. They did tremendously well in Denver. Trevor Lawrence played great. The Penn Staters played great. ETN played great. All of it, very impressive. All of it was just great stuff. And I would like to think that Jacksonville can keep this rolling. In theory, they should be able to, right? This has been a really good last few weeks for the Jaguars, and I think there's more to come from this team. Good work, Jacksonville. You are becoming a contender before our very eyes. San Francisco, no punt December. They have not been able to punt. They have not had to punt this month. That is wild. I could have also said win at home, because as long as the Niners keep winning, they don't have to play another road game in 2025 or 2026, as it were. That's how good and advantageous their situation has become. They win these next 2 games, they are the 1 seed in the NFC. After that, they keep winning. Their Super Bowl is in Santa Clara. They don't have to go anywhere. That's a huge advantage, obviously. But can the Niners earn their way to these accolades? We shall see. LA Rams, 4 awful losses. If the Rams don't get the 1 seed, you see why. They've had disastrous losses in all 4 of their L's that they've taken. They had no business losing to the Eagles. And yet, Jordan Davis basically saved more than Brady Perrant on that particular day. Let it be known that on that particular Sunday, only the Lord and Brady Perrant saved more than Jordan Davis. Then it was a Niner game where the Rams had a game on lock, and all they had to do was score from the one. Unfortunately for them, Kyron Williams fumbled at that spot, and then they went to overtime. Eventually, there was a 4th and 1, and the Niners stopped the Rams and won. Yikes. And then what happened with Carolina? Matt Stafford, who came into this game by not throwing NOs, threw 3 of them and self-destructed, they did. By they, obviously, I mean the Rams. Not great. And now we get to last week. They blow a double-digit lead. They blow a 16-point lead. 2 touchdowns, 2 two-point conversions, all in the fourth quarter, all of it bad, against a Seattle team that could have basically buried and said, all right, we got this 1 seed on lock. Instead, they do not. And it's like, oh, the Rams found a way to lose that game. And that's kind of been the lot in life for LA. Well, at least LA Rams. Where if they don't self-destruct, they win. And they win, and they win. That's kind of what they do. Can the Rams get back on track this week? They should. If they don't, that's a problem. Denver, still in control. Yes, last week was rough. They ran into a really good Jacksonville team that had their number. It was just their day. No shame in losing to a really good Jaguars team. I get it. It happens. But for the Broncos, they're still in control of the 1 seed. Just win your last 2 games, you're good to go. You'll obviously need to win Week 18. That game becomes way more important now. It's a 1-game showdown, it would seem. As long as the Chargers don't lose their game, I will talk about in a little bit. I've already talked about Denver's game. In theory, Denver should destroy Kansas City and get back on track. As long as Bo Nix doesn't go completely stupid, because that would be quite not great if he did. Chicago, biggest win since probably the NFC Championship. I think that's what I'm thinking here. That's probably what I'm suggesting here. The NFC Championship game they have with the Rex Grossman year. That's the only thing I can think of, to be honest. Because, let's face it, aside from that, it hasn't been smooth sailing for the Bears, to be honest. And obviously getting beat by the Packers in the NFC Championship game, the Jay Cutler game, not great. The Caleb Williams win was spectacular. This Caleb Williams win was as big as it gets for him and for them. And for Chicago to beat Green Bay that way, that is impressive to see. Chicago is in real control of the 2 seed, and in theory, they should have it. As long as they don't crumble down the stretch, they'll be good to go. Although I won't consider this next game a crumble. I'll talk about who they're playing in a little bit. And Seattle, a signature win. Not just for them, but for Sam Darnold, who needed it badly. He needed a win that would be validating. He needed a win that would make you say, okay, Darnold can beat a real team. And Darnold can beat a real team and make the playoffs and maybe potentially do it there. We need to see that part, obviously. But for the fact that Seattle can come back and win from those kind of odds I just talked about with the Rams game, that's really impressive to see that. I'm very impressed with how Seattle got this job done. Good work. Good work on their part. Can Seattle keep this going? Because if they win out, they're the 1 seed. And that's going to be the interesting test here, because Seattle's got 2 big-time games coming up. If Seattle can win them, they don't have to go anywhere until the Super Bowl. Good work. Good luck, Seattle. You'll need it, obviously. There are 2 main event games in this tier that I got to talk about. The first, Chargers and Texans. Monster games, monster showdowns here, with high stakes and high drama. It's on the board that one of these 2 divisions get clinched, because the loser of this game is at the mercy of either Denver or Jacksonville. How will this go? We shall see. Justin Herbert is going to a house of horrors that we just saw last year, or is he facing a team of horrors, if you will. The Chargers season ended because Justin Herbert was an abject disaster against this defense. 4 NOs, 1 was a pick 6, a second one could have been. This was as bad of a performance as Herbert's ever had, college, pro, whatever. And now you're facing a Texas team that may be even better on defense. We'll see if they still have his number. And for the Texan offense, can they get it together and keep it together against a good Charger defense? That'll be fun to see. This will be a real good game. Sunday Night Football, Bears, Niners, major showdown. Another game with high stakes. Another game where, though the NFC West isn't completely done if the Niners lose, it's kind of looking sketchy if they don't win. So it's a gotta-have-it game for San Francisco. For Chicago, gotta have a game on your part, because if Green Bay beats Baltimore, then the NFC North isn't completely safe. So it's a gotta-have-it game for both teams, and a game where if the Niners win, they can continue their quest to stay home. That is how vital this game will be. Monster stuff in the NFL this week. There are a lot of really important games. These last four I talked about, crazy important. I will obviously pick these games later today. Sports Lounge page. They'll probably come out super early because there's going to be a game at 1 o'clock. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Ramadan, Happy Festivus for the rest of you. This is going to be a fun day of sports when it comes to football and basketball. And when it comes to the Railway Recap, Cowboys Commanders, you're going to be the first stop of my next train of thought.